In at number 10, Hilary Duff. Hilary Duff was on top of the Disney World for years, starring in the hit show Lizzie McGuire. But after the massive success of the 2003 Lizzie McGuire movie, she demanded more. Since the movie was such a hit, Disney asked for a second Lizzie McGuire movie to be made, but the movie stalled because of negotiations. Suzanne Duff, Hilary Duff's mother and manager, says she asked the promised bonus to be paid immediately, but Disney did not want to oblige. Duff also said that Hilary was getting lowballed for the Lizzie McGuire series, and they were paying Hilary $35,000 per episode, even though other networks were offering six figures. Because of these contract negotiations, both the TV series and plans for the movie sequel ended. And I am so disappointed because Lizzie McGuire movie is literally one of the best movies of all time, and I would die to see a second. It is so great. In at number 9, Kirstie Alley. 1982 Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan opened with a young Kirstie Alley playing the character Saavik. We eventually learned that Alley is a trainee and it was all a simulation, but those moments with Alley on screen made a deep impact on the whole movie. The character of Saavik appears twice more in the franchise, but not played by Alley. When asked why she was booted from the sequels, Alley told StarTrek.com in 2016 that it was because of money. Apparently she didn't ask for more money, instead the franchise offered her less money for a sequel, which is like basically unheard of. She said, quote, "That never made sense to me, like you're not paying me as much for the first one and it's a bigger role." She claimed she tried to inquire about the lowball, but instead of answers, she was just cut. In at number 8, Crispin Glover. In 1985's Back to the Future, Crispin Glover played Marty McFly's dad, George McFly, and even though the movie was uber successful, Glover did not appear in the sequel. His absence in the second film even led to a lawsuit. The story is that Glover was unhappy with the script for the second movie and demanded the same salary as the film's lead, Michael J. Fox, who made $1 million. But in 2012, Glover says that was a lie, and he was only offered $150,000 for the sequel, which was half the amount offered to stars who had similar sized roles in the film. He also said when he tried to negotiate, the offer was actually decreased by $25,000. The film ended up casting someone else in Glover's role, but put a mold of Glover's face on this actor's face. Then Glover sued the film for using his likeness and got $760,000. In at number 7, Bruce Willis. The Expendables franchise is full of huge stars like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jason Statham, to name a few. Bruce Willis joined the cast in the 2010 movie, along with a 2012 sequel where he picked up a larger role. And even though he was set to star in the third film, it didn't happen, and Harrison Ford took the role instead. Later it was reported that monetary disputes were the reason for the change. The Hollywood Reporter exposed, quote, "Willis was offered $3 million for 4 days of consecutive work, and he allegedly demanded a pay bump to $4 million, $1 million per day, but the studio did not oblige and Ford was cast within days." In at number 6, Marcus Chong. Marcus Chong, who played Tank in The Matrix, was one of the only members of the cast to survive. However, he didn't show up in the sequels, causing suspicion. The franchise wanted Chong to be a part, however he claims he was offered too little. In Chong's own 45-minute YouTube documentary called The Marcus Chong Story, he says he was offered $250,000 to appear in 2003's The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions, but he wanted $1 million. The film said no, so strangely enough Chong came back asking for $500,000 or to work for free. Didn't really understand that part, but apparently the franchise was done with the games and decided to just cut him instead. Halfway at number 5, Sean Connery. Sean Connery is known by many as the best James Bond, and fans were devastated when he was quickly replaced. He first played the role of 007 in 1962, then he played in 4 more movies before he decided to ask for more money from the franchise. By the time Connery starred in 1967's You Only Live Twice, for which he was paid $750,000 plus a 25% share of merchandising, he was apparently just kinda bored with the role and took a risky move by asking for more money. He demanded $1 million, but the franchise declined. As a result, George Lazenby was given the role, to the dismay of fans. After that film was hit with terrible reviews, Connery was asked back and he made $1.25 million for 1971's Diamonds Are Forever. And at number 4, Maggie Rhee. Maggie starred on The Walking Dead right from the first season and was a staple in the show, but in season 9, she disappeared from the show, leaving many to wonder why. It was later reported that money was the reason. The show did not meet her monetary demands, so she was cut from season 9 and went on to play in ABC's action dramedy Whiskey Cavalier. But apparently her time with the show was already on the rocks, and she was bored of playing the same character for 8 years. Apparently she also wanted to explore comedy and more happy projects. In the end, since she had not been killed off the show, just written off, she did come back for the 11th and final season. In at number 3, Suzanne Somers. Suzanne Somers starred in ABC's Three's Company, which was one of the most successful sitcoms ever. The show chronicled two women living with a man in a house in Santa Monica and followed their antics. After a few years, Somers decided to request a raise for this successful show, especially since learning her male counterpart on the show, John Ritter, was paid $150,000 per episode, while she was only making $30,000 per episode. Apparently, when she confronted the network about this, they offered her a $5,000 per episode raise, but that wasn't enough. So she didn't show up for the filming and was fired. She was then replaced on the show with a look-alike character. Apparently her firing was a part of a bigger picture, and there were other women who wanted more money from the network, so they decided to make an example out of Somers by cutting her. In at number 2, Terrence Howard. Marvel fans first saw Terrence Howard playing the role of James Rhodey Rhodes, who later became War Machine. But then in Iron Man 2, Howard was not in the film, rather Don Cheadle played Rhodey in the MCU after that. Howard did not keep his anger to himself and openly discussed why he was axed. In 2013 on Watch What Happens Live, Howard told Andy Cohen that when it was time to make Iron Man 2, Marvel only wanted to pay him 1/8 of what they owed him. Howard even reached out to Robert Downey Jr., who did not offer any support. Howard even claimed he took a $1 million pay cut to get Downey Jr. cast in his role, to which Marvel denied. In the end, Howard retracted many of his callouts and claimed him and Downey Jr. were on good terms again. And finally, number 1, Robert Duvall. Duvall first became critically acclaimed through his role as Tom Hagen in The Godfather. He even earned an Academy Award nomination for his work in the film and starred in the second movie as well. But he did not make it into part 3 of the film, apparently due to money. Speaking in 2004, Duvall explained that he not only left because he wanted more money than he was making, he was more so just disgusted at how much more some other actors were making. Saying, quote, "I said I would work easily if they paid Al Pacino twice what they paid me, that's fine. But not 3 or 4 times, which is what they did." In 2010, he explained he had no regrets about not appearing in the film because of the poor reviews that it got.
Starting off the list at number 10 is Kevin Spacey. Back in October 2017, the actor was accused of assaulting a minor many years before. He denied the allegations but still issued an apology following the allegations, probably hoping that it would be enough and everything would kind of just blow over. But that is not what happened. At the time, he was the star and producer of the hit Netflix TV series House of Cards and was suspended immediately when the accusations first surfaced. But ultimately, they decided to fire him and the show would wrap up one final season without him, of course. In December 2018, he was charged with indecent assault and battery regarding an 18-year-old boy's allegations, but by July 2019, the criminal charges were all dropped. Despite the legal outcomes though, his acting career won't ever be the same again. Next up at number 9 is Isaiah Washington. He started to have a bad rep back in 2006 when reports surfaced that he had used a gay slur on the set of Grey's Anatomy towards his co-star TR Knight, who came out as gay shortly after. Isaiah issued an apology, which helped him gain some forgiveness from people, but not everyone. He stirred up another controversy the following year at the 2007 Golden Globes when he was caught uttering another gay slur while backstage. He then issued a second apology and admitted that he had used the slur and that ABC had him to go through a counseling program. That is a good idea. However, they couldn't be so forgiving to the actor who just kept repeating the same mistake, so they fired him from the Grey's Anatomy series just a few months later. Swiping the number 8 spot is Thomas Gibson. He played Aaron Hotchner on the TV series Criminal Minds from 2005 all the way until 2016. He was the frontrunner of the entire show, to be honest, but even though he had a significant part in the show, it did not stop them from firing him after he got into an altercation on set. Turns out he had an issue with one of the lines, so he brought it up to a producer, which wasn't well received. Gibson asked for the line to be changed, and when the writer-producer Viggo Williams approached Gibson about it, the altercation happened. The actor describes his side of the story and says, "He came into the room and started coming towards me. As he brushed past me, my foot came up and tapped him on the leg. If I hadn't moved, he would have run into me. We had some choice of words, for which I apologized the next day, and that was it. It was over, we shot the scene, I went home, and I never got to go back." I mean, I think it's kinda obvious that he's basically underplaying this whole thing. Kinda reminds me of an excuse you use like when you were a kid. Like I would kick my sister and then be like, "No dad, she just tripped over my foot." Like come on, poor excuse, your foot didn't just go up and tap his leg. Up next at number 7 is Lisa Bonet. From the years 1984 to 1991, she played Denise on the TV series The Cosby Show. She played the oldest daughter of the family, whose dad was played by the one and only Bill Cosby himself. Her character was a fan favorite, so much that she was given her own spin-off show called A Different World. But she was written out of the Cosby Show, which ultimately ended her character as a whole. The reason she was fired was because she became pregnant and engaged to musician Lenny Kravitz after her first season of A Different World. The producers wrote her character out of the show and focused on other characters instead. At first, they actually allowed her to return to the Cosby Show, but she was also written off of that one as well, and wasn't even invited to appear in the show's finale. So to sum it all up, they did not end on good terms. At number 6 is Danny Masterson. You might know him as Hyde from the series That 70s Show. This one was a huge ordeal, so if you missed it, you might be living under a rock. Danny had allegations against him that went on for years, accusing him of sexual misconduct, including a violent case. He is known to be involved in the Scientology church, which is probably why he was protected by the church for a while, before the Me Too movement brought it to light. He was starring in the Netflix series called The Ranch alongside Ashton Kutcher when he faced the heat. It took some time, but Netflix eventually announced in December 2017 that Danny was let go from the show. Any charges that were filed were eventually dropped, and he continues to call them, I quote, outrageous allegations, and also says that he is very disappointed in Netflix's decision to write his character off the show. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Charlie Sheen. He was once the highest paid actor, earning $1.8 million an episode for his role on 2.5 Men. But his career went on a break in January 2011 when he entered a rehab facility regarding his long history of alcohol and drug abuse. This is not a secret to anyone. We could never forget the time he was on cocaine and told us that he had tiger blood flowing through his veins. On top of the multiple rehab visits, he also had domestic charges against him by a variety of women. His reputation was suffering, and when he got out of rehab, he demanded a 50% raise from the show, as if $1.8 million wasn't enough. When it was denied, he publicly insulted the co-creator of the show, Chuck Lorre, which is when he was dismissed from the series. The things he said about Chuck were too explicit and inappropriate for me to even say on here, but one example to give you some perspective is he told him to suck his butt. So yeah. Taking over the number 4 spot is Nicollette Sheridan. She is known to be one of many divas on Desperate Housewives. In fact, she might be the biggest one of them all. Over her time on the show, reports claim that she was constantly clashing with the show's creator, Mark Cherry. The feud's and tensions were so bad that she was dismissed from the show, and her character was killed off in April 2009 during one of the episodes. Nicollette ended up filing a lawsuit against him and Touchstone Television for wrongful termination. I mean, I get it. No one wants to find out their character dies through an episode that they weren't even in. But she didn't remain very professional and started to air out a bunch of dirty laundry. She claimed that Cherry hit her on the head one day and said that ABC fired her because she reported the assault. Cherry admitted to it but said it was not a hit and that he touched her during a demonstration of how to enact a comedic moment during a scene. The case did end up going to trial, but all of her appeals were rejected, so she was left without a job and with no compensation. Alright, coming into 3rd place is Shannon Doherty. Really, she could take 1st place because she managed to get fired from 2 shows, Beverly Hills 90210 and Charmed. Reports say she was fired from Charmed after an ongoing feud with her co-star Alyssa Milano. Apparently, she can't get along with any of her co-stars because the feuds continued when she worked on Beverly Hills 90210. She ended up getting fired after she got into a physical altercation on set. If there is one thing a workplace will not tolerate, no matter what job it is violence. After throwing punches at one of her co-stars, Jenny Garth, she was fired for her bad behavior. Her other co-star, Tori Spelling, actually had her fired because her dad was the creator and producer of the show. She went to him immediately after the altercation and she was let go immediately. Tori later admitted that it did put her in this very uncomfortable position, but says that she did the right thing. At number 2 is Columbus Short, known best for his role on the hit TV series Scandal. He played Harrison Wright on the series between the years 2012 to 2014, but his own real-life scandal is what had him fired after having allegations of domestic violence against him. The worst part is that they came from his own wife at the time. She ended up getting a restraining order against him after claiming that he put a knife to her throat and threatened to kill her. He openly admits to having a drug addiction at the time, but knows that it does not act as an excuse. The show ended up letting him go and killed his character off the series. He confirmed his departure from the show by releasing a statement saying, "At this time I must confirm my exit from a show I've called home for 3 years, with what is the most talented ensemble in television today." Well, at least he went out gracefully, after holding a knife to his wife's throat. Taking the number 1 spot on our list is Jussie Smollett, who starred in the TV series Empire. He has taken our number 1 spot because I have an update for you guys. If you have been following our channel, you would know that he's been on a few of our lists recently after he was arrested earlier this year in January 2019. If you don't know the story, his story broke the news when he went to the hospital earlier this year saying he was attacked by 2 men who were yelling out racial and homophobic slurs and even poured a chemical substance on him. 20th Century Fox and Fox Entertainment offered their support to the actor after the attack was reported, as did many fans who were seeing this as a serious hate crime. 2 men who were suspected of the crime were arrested and charged, and that is when all the truth came out in the courtroom. The men ended up pulling out signed checks from Jussie showing that he had actually paid them to stage the entire thing. $3,500 in case you're wondering. On February 21st, Jussie was arrested on suspicion of filing a false police report. The producers of Empire cut his character from the final 2 episodes of the current season at the time and said they would be considering all options for the future. Well, update. The charges were dropped, but Fox officially announced just last month in August that he will not be returning to Empire ever. Fans are actually in support of this because he didn't face any penalty for what he did wrong. So this is kind of like some bad karma. Starting off our list at number 10 is Lucy Liu, who got one of her co-stars fired from the movie Charlie's Angels. The movie remake came out in 2000 and had Lucy Liu starring as one of the private investigators who answer to their boss Charlie. Bill Murray took on the role as Charlie, and he just so happened to be the one who was fired from the franchise. Apparently there was a lot of tension between the actor and Lucy Liu on set while filming. Lucy reported that he told her in front of everyone on set that she can't act and that he didn't know why she was cast in the movie. According to Us Weekly, that's when Lucy allegedly started throwing punches at the actor and they physically had to be pulled apart. After the incident, she demanded that Murray be fired. Filming was almost finished, but her demand was taken seriously as his role was replaced in the sequel. Everyone else reprised their roles but him, and there is no way that that is just a coincidence. In at number 9 we have Will Smith, who was known for his beloved role in the sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The show portrayed a very loving and close family bond, but apparently the off-screen feud between Smith and his co-star Janet Hubert became a big problem. Smith openly talks about the feud and told Jet magazine, and I quote, "I can say straight up that Janet Hubert wanted the show to be called the Aunt Viv of Bel-Air show. No matter what, to her I'm just the Antichrist." He went on to explain that she was constantly demanding things that were just unreasonable. Janet responded to his comments in an interview and stated, "He has gotten me fired from the show and now he's trying to snatch my career away from me." To this day, the 2 stars have never resolved their issues. NBC refused to discuss their fighting and said her dismissal was because she became pregnant, which violated her contract. Sliding into the number 8 spot is Lisa Ray McCoy, an actress who has always prided herself on her professionalism in the acting industry. However, her personality clashed with her co-star Stacey Dash while on the show Single Ladies. Stacey Dash first got known for her role in the teen comedy movie Clueless, where she soon became a celebrity. According to Lisa, the 2 of them were always butting heads, and she claims that Lisa would question every aspect of their scripts and tried to always be the center of attention. Stacey's final moments on the show were a feud between the 2 ladies who were getting in each other's faces over a disagreement on the script. Lisa tells her side of the story by saying, and I quote, "In Hollywood, I learned to be a boss. I had to say to Stacey Dash, if you don't get your mother effing finger out my face." So for our 2nd season of Single Ladies, there was a replacement for Stacey Dash. Just like that, the actress was in fact replaced. In our number 7 spot is John Stamos, or you might know him as Uncle Jesse from the TV series Full House. He was the hilarious and very handsome uncle to the 2 toddler Olsen twins who played Michelle at the time. Turns out John tried really hard to get the Olsen twins fired during the 1st season of the show, and he was successful. You might be asking yourself, what 2 toddlers could possibly do for someone to want them fired? Well, apparently they cried all the time. John has no problem admitting the story and opened up about it during an interview with Television Critics Association by saying, "It's sort of true that the Olsen twins cried a lot. It was very difficult to get the shot, so I said get them out. That is 100% accurate." Turns out the twins really were let go, and they replaced them with some red-headed actresses who they tried out for a while but apparently didn't work out. The Olsen twins were eventually brought back, so this story has a happy ending, but I can't believe that they were ever fired to begin with. And because of Uncle Jesse, out of all people. My mind is blown. At number 6 we have Charlie Sheen, Sheen, who teamed up with his co-star Selma Blair for the TV show called Anger Management. There seemed to be some major problems between the two of them while working together on set. The two of them never got close, and she claims he is the reason she was eventually fired from the show. She went to the show management to complain about his work ethic and his bad behavior. After she complained to show management, she quickly realized her dismissal was in Sheen's control. His family company Sheen Productions helped make the show, so they took her complaints as talking about the actor behind his back and criticizing his work. Sheen wrote Blair a nasty text message referring to her as a C-word and told her that she was going to be let go from the show. She went on to file a lawsuit against the production company demanding that they owe her $1.2 million that she would have made if she would have stayed on the show. Halfway through our list at number 5 is Alec Baldwin. The actor himself isn't perfect as he's run into some trouble with the law in the past, but apparently his co-star Shia LaBeouf had more issues when he was fired from the show they worked on together. The two of them briefly worked on a Broadway production called Orphan back in 2013. Alec tells the story that he was attacked by Shia one day on set in front of everyone. He explained the incident saying, "One day he attacked me in front of everyone. He said, 'You're slowing me down and you don't know your lines. And if you don't say your lines, I'm just going to keep saying my lines.'" The two of them continued to argue over what he said, and later that day Alec took the stage manager to another room and said to them that one of them has to go. He claims that he even offered to leave and told them not to fire the kid, meaning Shia, but they ended up firing him anyways because of his bad attitude. Alec later told Vulture during an interview that Shia is used to the film world where they make a lot of money, so they think they have a sense of entitlement. He said that he thinks Shia was very surprised that it didn't work that way in the theater world. Coming in at number 4 is Sharon Osbourne. The British legend has made a name for herself in Hollywood over the past couple of decades. You can find her being the lead host on the entertainment show The Talk, where she was hosting alongside Leah Remini before she got her fired. The host seemed to come and go on the talk show as headlines have flooded with various people being fired and replaced. Morning talk shows like The View and The Talk have a revolving door policy, whether it comes from behind the scenes or even the audience's preferences. Well, Leah is one of the many who was fired from the job back in 2012. Apparently, Sharon Osbourne has power over the other hosts and also the producers. The two of them often butt heads and had disagreements while on set with each other. Leah was unexpectedly fired from set one day, which made headlines because the feud went to Twitter. Remini tweeted out, "Sharon thought me and Holly were ghetto, that we were not funny and were awkward and didn't know ourselves. She has the power that was given to her." Sharon then tweeted out a response that she said she had nothing to do with the actress getting fired. The two of them to this day have not spoken ever since. What do you guys believe? Let me know down in the comments. Alright guys, at number 3 we have Bill Cosby. Nowadays his reputation has been completely damaged following the sexual allegations against him by multiple women. But back in the 80s and 90s he was incredibly popular thanks to his title role in the Cosby Show sitcom. Actress Lisa Bonet played his eldest daughter Denise on the show and was even given her own spin-off series called A Different World. But when her personal life changed and she got pregnant, apparently Bill fired her from the show. The director of the show, Debbie Allen, opened up in an interview with the Archive of American Television and said that shortly after Bonet married musician Lenny Kravitz and revealed she was expecting a baby, Cosby nixed her role from the show. Lisa has opened up about her side of the story and said she explained to Bill that she wanted to use her pregnancy on the show. She said it would be a great thing to see a girl who is an upper class kid having a baby and not being married, and that girls could root for her. The director and Lisa both say that Cosby replied with, and I quote, "Denise is not pregnant. Lisa Bonet is pregnant, not Denise. So no, you can't have it. No, we're not gonna do it. No." Lisa finished off her last brief time on the show but was ultimately let go because of creative differences. In at number 2 is America Ferrera. We first got introduced to the actress in The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but she then landed the lead on a popular TV series called Ugly Betty. The show is having a guest appearance by Lindsay Lohan, which they spent weeks promoting everywhere. Her guest appearance was originally scheduled for 6 episodes but was cut down to just 4 when America and Lohan began to clash. America wasn't impressed with Lindsay's unprofessional behavior and didn't appreciate that she showed up to set late every day. According to People magazine, I quote, "Lohan and her people were so destructive that her dressing room had to be repainted when she left." Reports claim that she showed up to set with a group of people every day and that they would all smoke inside the room and trash it. Sources who were close to Lindsay stated that America was mean to her and had producers kick her off the show. America was the series lead, so it's no surprise that she had some power over the guest star, especially one who was acting the way Lindsay was. Taking Taking the number 1 spot on our list is Tori Spelling, known for her role on the hit TV series Beverly Hills 90210. There have been many rumors floating around about the feud between her two co-stars Jenny Garth and Shannon Doherty. Apparently, they weren't just rumors, and the two girls had an epic battle on set which led to a fist fight. Tori recalls the incident and explains it as, "I remember I could hear the door fly open and everyone was screaming and crying. That's when I was told the boys just had to break up Jenny and Shannon. It was like a fist fight." Tori was particularly close to Jenny and also had her issue with Doherty, who has burnt other bridges in Hollywood because of her bad attitude. Tori admitted to Entertainment Tonight that she was responsible for having her fired and that she went to her father about the issue. Her father is legendary television executive Aaron Spelling. Tori didn't take joy in having her co-star fired, and she explained she felt she cost someone their livelihood and that Shannon is not a horrible person. However, she does believe her decision to have her fired was the right one.
Kicking things off at number 10, we have Ryan Gosling. Did you know Ryan was a Disney star? Cause I didn't. That's right, back in the 90s, Gosling was part of the Mickey Mouse Club alongside Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears. A totally star-studded lineup, but they didn't know that yet. Yep, Gosling got his start on the Disney Channel, but didn't stick around for too long after joining the crew at the age of 12. In an interview from 2008, Ryan opened up about his 2 years on the Disney Channel. The LaLaine actor revealed that producers from the Disney Channel thought that Ryan had a bit of an attitude problem and was a bad influence on the other kids. Now how could you say that about our darling Ryan? I mean, look at the man. He's oozing with sweet, gentle energy. Okay, let me stop before I start drooling. Gosling also went on to say that he was apparently considered to be such a menace to the other kids that the mothers of his co-stars went to the execs to complain about his behavior. The studio then ruled that Ryan wasn't Disney material because of his behavior and was soon let go. Obviously, this little hiccup didn't stunt his career in the slightest, but it still would have been interesting to see him in more Disney projects. Up next at number 9, we have Teo Halm. As a spin-off slash reboot of the classic Disney show Boy Meets World, Girl Meets World started rolling, Disney execs were thinking of their cast list. Originally, Girl Meets World was supposed to focus on Corey and Topanga's daughter Riley, but they were also going to feature her older brother Elliot. Naturally, as anyone would be after being cast for a Disney show, Teo was stoked. This was going to be his big break. Unfortunately for him though, after filming the pilot episode with the whole cast, producers decided that they were going to cut Teo's character from the show. They released a statement saying that various creative changes are often made as a project transitions from pilot to series. Although Teo tells fans that there were no hard feelings towards the Disney team, it still got to sting a little. I mean, it seems that every kid's dream is to be on the Disney Channel, and for Teo to have that dream taken away when he was so close, man, that blows. His career hasn't taken much of a hit since being kicked off the Disney show, and I'm sure we will continue to watch his success unfold. But Disney, you lost out on a real one there. At number 8, Adrienne Bailon. Amigas, cheetahs, friends for life. You know who's not friends for life? Adrienne Bailon and Disney. The former cheetah girl who brought so much success to the Disney franchise was booted from the company after a photo leak back in 2008. The Cheetah Girls franchise was going so well, and Adrienne just had to mess things up with her titties. No, but really, back in 2008, either her or her boyfriend's computer got hacked and her nudes were leaked all over the internet. Obviously, this wasn't good for her image, and it definitely was not good for Disney's either. Nudes are not brand friendly. Disney then quickly decided to cut ties with the actress, but Adrienne didn't seem to mind all that much. A lot of people believe that this so-called hack was a publicity stunt that Adrienne organized in order to be released from her contract and move on to other projects. This is understandable since she was 25 at the time. My guess is that she wanted to move on to more grown-up things, but I mean, if this didn't happen, then maybe we could have had a 4th Cheetah Girls movie, and that would have made my heart really happy. In at number 7, LaLaine. Best known for her role as Miranda from Lizzie McGuire, LaLaine was a fan favorite of many, including me. She was part of the Disney show's cast from the beginning, and she held a crucial role making up the trio of besties on the show. But mysteriously, LaLaine went MIA from the last few episodes of the series, as well as from the Lizzie McGuire movie that capped off the hit Disney show. The only explanation we as the audience were given for her mysterious disappearance was that Miranda went on vacation to Mexico during the events of the Lizzie McGuire movie. Her abrupt absence from the show was never explained further, and fans have been left wondering what actually happened to the actress. Obviously, something big had to have gone down behind the scenes for her just to be wiped off the face of the Disney empire like that. Most fans believe that LaLaine had gotten herself into trouble. In a recent interview with the Lizzie McGuire cast, LaLaine mentioned that as a kid she went through a period of time that she called the dark days. The actress highlighted how she went nuts and stupid, and just being angry and acting like she was so badass. I'm thinking that these so-called dark days were just the unfortunate combination of being a kid and growing up in the media. We've seen so many former child stars crash and burn because of their time in the spotlight, so this is probably the case. Disney just didn't want to have a kid burn out on camera like that. With the uncertainty of the Lizzie McGuire reboot up in the air, I certainly hope that we get to see the return of Miranda. Coming into number 6, we have Chloe Grace Moretz. Remember the 2008 Disney film Bolt? The one about the dog who wants to be a superhero? Well, did you know that the actress Chloe Grace Moretz was actually supposed to be the voice of Penny? Yep, that's right. Disney had cast Chloe to play the voice of Bolt's owner Penny, but was let go from the project and the role was given to Miley Cyrus instead. Chloe had actually recorded the whole movie when they decided, actually no, we want Miley instead. I mean, come on Disney. The girl spends all her time voicing the entire movie and you just decided to let her go? That's just mean. Producers still credited Chloe in the movie as the voice of young Penny, but still, that's gotta hurt. Just like our boy Tio, being kicked from the project at the last minute has gotta be one of the worst feelings ever. Luckily, being recast didn't hurt her career one bit. She's still one of the most sought after actresses in the industry and continues to find work outside of Disney. Halfway through at number 5, Jake T. Austin. Former Wizards of Waverly Place actor Jake T. Austin saw a lot of success when working on the Disney Channel. After finding fame alongside Selena Gomez and David Henry, Jake went on to pursue another role on the ABC Family show The Fosters. ABC Family, a subsidiary of the Disney Empire, basically has the same sort of standards for their actors. They all have to keep their noses clean and stay family friendly, and as long as they follow the rules, they can have a career. They honestly sound a little culty, but I digress. Jake jumped into the new hit series playing the role of Jesus and saw a lot of success. But then just out of freaking nowhere, Jake goes AWOL and gets into some trouble. In 2013, Jake was arrested and charged with a DUI. Jake, who was 18 at the time, was able to handle things pretty discreetly and not much news broke of it. Fast forward to 2014, and Jake lands himself back into some more trouble, this time being involved in a pretty serious crash. Now get this, Jake had allegedly driven into 3 parked cars, then threw a bottle of Ciroc out of the window and Ubered away from the crash. Talk about chaotic. First of all, how do you hit 3 parked cars at once? Like, I don't understand how that would work. Secondly, he just threw a bottle of premium grade vodka out the window. Probably to prevent himself from getting another DUI, but still, that ish is pretty pricey nonetheless. And number 3, who just Ubers away from a crash like that? You just got yourself a witness, my guy. You're not very good at committing crimes. Now obviously this kind of behavior upset the head honchos at Disney, and his Foster's character was recast to Hollywood's newest heartthrob, Noah Centineo. Jake, you done effed up on that one. In at number 4, Mitchel Musso. Oh Oliver, how you done goofed. Former Disney Channel actor Mitchel Musso, best known for his role as Oliver Oaken in Hannah Montana, saw his career crash and burn in 2011. Just shortly after the end of Hannah Montana, Mitchel, who was just 20 years old at the time, was charged with a DUI when he was pulled over by an officer after failing to comply with police-directed traffic. Musso was in deep trouble with this one, because not only was his blood alcohol level way above the legal limit, he was also not supposed to be drinking alcohol in the first place, since in the US the legal drinking age is 21, and he had not quite reached that age at the time of the incident. Now, in true Mickey Mouse fashion, Mitchel was shunned from Disney because of this. He was kicked off his upcoming Disney project Pair of Kings, and they even refused to acknowledge his part in it. He was well and truly shunned from the company. He had also been part of the cast of Phineas and Ferb, and was obviously banished from that project as well, but at least they gave him some credit. Following his DUI charge, his legal battle began, but luckily for Musso, he wasn't given jail time. Instead, he was served with 36 months probation, forced to take an alcohol education class, and he had to pay a fine. Since then, his career has never been the same, and he was never able to pick up the same success that he once had on the Disney Channel, but I guess that's just the universe's way of punishing him. Coming down to the wire, let's talk about PewDiePie. Or should I say, PewDiePie. I don't know if he still does that, but I'm saying it anyway. The YouTube gamer, who was scheduled to have a collaboration with Maker Studios, a Disney-owned company, was quickly dropped after being faced with backlash following a slew of anti-Semitic jokes. The backlash coming at Pewds came from a series of since-deleted videos where he featured a mix of anti-Semitic jokes and Nazi imagery. Now, Pewds, I know you built your fame off being loud and critical and making jokes and whatnot, but don't you think that joking about some serious discrimination is probably not the best thing for your career? The best, or probably the worst example of this poor decision comes from a video he posted where we see 2 men holding up a sign that says "Death to all Jews" and another that features someone dressed as Jesus saying Hitler did nothing wrong. Like, dude, Seriously? How did you think you could post this and get away with it? You should have seen the hate coming from light years away. Clearly, this kind of thing really upset the people at Maker Studios, and they decided to cut ties with the YouTuber shortly after these videos were published. Of all the times you could have been offensive, and of all the times you could have been publicly scrutinized, you chose the moment after you signed with one of the biggest companies in the world to go and mess things up for yourself. PewDiePie went ahead and issued an apology saying that he does not support that kind of behavior and that the message was misconstrued, but no one was really buying that. The video was made to show how Pewds paid people on the website Fiverr to make banners and film themselves, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that even though he could have made the people he hired to do anything, he chose to make them include anti-Semitic messages. Bad move on your part, Pewds. In at number 2, Jake Paul. We all know YouTuber Jake Paul for his YouTube antics, but back in 2017, it was those very antics that got him fired from his role on the Disney Channel show Bizaardvark. With all the shenanigans Jake and his Team 10 housemates got into, Jake's neighbors were not thrilled with having them there. There had reportedly been so many house calls and complaints against Jake and the Team 10 house that it started to get media attention. And you know Disney, if it's not good news for them, it's bad news for you. The YouTuber's bad press was not good for Disney's image, so some tough decisions had to be made. The execs at Disney came to the decision to let Jake go, and supposedly the decision was mutual with Jake's team. I kinda don't buy that. I can't really believe that Jake made the decision to leave Disney, since being on the show was his dream and the whole reason he moved to California in the first place. I know that he was getting a lot of success on his own from YouTube, but being fired from Disney probably wasn't part of Jake's plan. He said that he and his team had made the decision to leave, but I think what really happened is that he just didn't want to seem upset about it and let it go. I mean, he took the L and moved on. Things for Jake have been pretty okay since then, although he's already a divorcee, but I guess that's just how Jake rolls. And in the number 1 spot we have Bella Thorne. Miss Bella Thorne, known best for her time on Disney's Shake It Up, really shook things up for Disney after a few years under the mouse's iron fist. Ever since moving on from the entertainment empire, Bella has been very vocal about her time working on Disney and why she was let go. As it goes for a lot of Disney stars, their contracts limit their freedom as individuals. They're asked to stay pretty PG and kid-friendly as they work there, but for some stars who grow up on the platform, this rule tends to be pretty restricting. As Bella grew up on TV, she wanted to express herself more and just really be herself, but obviously Disney doesn't like that. Really, the thing that started to anger Disney and push them to let Bella go were her clothing choices. Whenever Bella would dress up in a crop top or be seen out in a bikini, some execs were not happy because it wasn't brand friendly enough. All Bella wanted to do was wear what she felt made her happy, but apparently this was against the contract. If this sort of thing happened to me, I'd probably react in the same way Bella did and just keep on doing it. No one really has much right to tell you what you can and cannot wear, and it's not really fair to have those sort of rules in place. So Bella kept on pushing until they were fed up with her and they let her go. Now Bella is free to do whatever she wants, like direct adult films and start an OnlyFans. She's her own boss now and she's killing the game.